Dr. Robotnik. Enemy. Master registration deleted. E-Series. Friends. Must save.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Sonic Adventure commentary with me, Skully the Metalhead, and well, there's a lot to talk about, mostly for the fact that Gamma is now a rogue agent of his own accord. We are now heading back to the... whoopsie daisies. We are now heading back to the egg carrier to get Gamma's secondary upgrade, the mandatory one of which was his jet booster, which is basically a makeshift hover pack. However, the most important thing is that Gamma is actually a fan of Skully reviews. Yeah, apparently I time travel back into 1998, or possibly Gamma could see into the future, you know, to Carl and everything, and he became a fan of my videos. So yeah, celebrity status. I don't know. But in any case, I didn't mention it beforehand, mostly because I was a bit distracted with Gamma's first thing. Then again, there was a mound of cutscenes with so much to talk about. And, secondary usage of the transit system. Gamma's upgrades, as for the hover pack, again, it is of great use, and especially given how, Gamma... Ugh, excuse me, Pepsi. But especially given how Gamma controls and how he's rather floaty as it is definitely of great use because you can get some great distance over it, and unlike, with the mechs and everything in Sonic Adventure 2, Gamma is rather fluid, which a lot of people gameplay-wise prefer, but, not me personally, because Gamma is sort of at this nexus point where he's like, to me, he's a little bit too free-flowy to really get a lot of precision down, and again, it's not really something I can talk about until I get to the gameplay itself, so I'll probably give an example then, assuming of course I can remember this, but yeah, I prefer how the controls were in Adventure 2 for as much as people might despise them. Transformers. Okay, jump cut, or Optimus Prime transition activated? Yeah, okay, here's probably where I could use my example. And Gamma's next stage is Windy Valley. Stage we haven't seen in a good long while. Now again, to give it a, greater example, again, I mentioned before, Gamma's basics, again, you know, shoot enemies, the more targets you lock onto, the more time you get. This is a gameplay decision that I really don't agree with, and it's mostly because of the fact that I have absolutely no idea why Gamma needs this time limit. Because, you know, unlike the Mega Drive games, you know, the Sonic characters aren't constricted by, you know, finish the stage in 10 minutes or you'll get a time over. But Gamma is like, okay, you have 3 minutes to do this, if you don't, Gamma just dies. And again, there's no explanation story-wise, and some fans like to push the explanation as, oh no, he has to complete the mission or his battery pack will run out. Then, you know, what's the fucking excuse for the hub worlds? You know, I don't understand. That's just it's a bullshit thing that I'm glad they phased out with Sonic Adventure 2, and in terms of controls, again, Gamma is very floaty, but at the same time though, I don't think it works very well with the level structure is what I'm trying to say here. It's like, I mean, he floats around and, you know, the jet booster was there to help propel him forward. But unlike Sonic Adventure 2, where the stages were designed with the mech stages in mind, here it's just, okay, go through Sonic stages and try and, you know, move your way around the set pieces, I guess. Again, it's very... I don't really know what an effective word to it, but it just feels very tacked on. For the lack of a better phrase. Really again, I mentioned this before, but I really love that music piece when we fight the E-Series robots. One of the more rockin' pieces of the soundtrack that just... delicious. And this is pretty much going to be the main crux of Gamma's missions from this point onwards. He's not working for Dr. Eggman anymore, he deleted him from his master's registration. And, as I mentioned before, the interesting tangent of who's really in control here, Gamma the artificial intelligence, or the animal inside him. Again, I've brought up before that, you know, it was a mixture of both, that the artificial intelligence was in control of his functions, but there were some hidden desires with, you know, the bird itself, perhaps influencing it after it saw its family member. I don't know, it's a very interesting train of thought to follow. And, see, look, the bird is even affecting him now. It's just like, whee! Yeah, also, a nice little detail that when Gamma enters his running animation, he just transforms onto his treads and just gets going. I don't know, it's a nice little detail. Also, we have probably one of the most atmospheric scene changes in terms of lighting, and again, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but Sonic Adventure during development was initially supposed to have a day and night cycle. And this is also prevalent because one of the cut bits of content was actually the fact that the trains were supposed to work to a schedule. So, like, you hear things like, the train headed for Station Square will be departing soon. And, you know, usually you'd get messages like, the train won't be arriving until this afternoon or something. You know, which would have fit in with specific schedules, so if you missed that, then damn, you're out of luck. It's a gameplay feature that I actually really would have loved to have seen incorporated in, you know, maybe a more, again, it's something where I would like to see it incorporated in a more recent Sonic game, but at the same time though, a lot of sensibilities and, you know, what people want out of video games have changed since 1998. Like, I mean, in this era it made, or at the very least in this era, it felt profitable to have games emulate real life, but whereas now a lot of people are more switching back towards abstract 2D, oh, it's just a video game, no need to get invested. Well, depending upon which part of the market you're heading for. But again, in the case of Sonic, it's like, oh, it's just a video game, you don't need to pay much attention to it. I don't know. It just doesn't sound like something that really achieved. But again, I would like to see it there, because there is a lot of charm to Yu Suzuki's living world philosophy that Sonic Adventure really does run with. But again, we're finally back in Red Mountain, and again, this really does... you can tell that this level was designed for Sonic in mind, but they've given it the bare minimum amount of changes to go, okay, look, this is designed for Gamma, but... See, a lot of this stuff is there for a more nimble platform, and Gamma, while floaty in, you know, his basic control scheme, you can tell that it was just there for, you know, characters like Sonic. And again, it's not to say that it's poorly programmed or that it doesn't work, because again, it's serviceable. But again, you can tell that you're pretty much just pasting a character in. Again, it's very much like, you know, putting Eggman, you know, a mechless Dr. Eggman in City Escape. Like, I mean, yeah, it's entertaining, and yeah, you know, you can do it. But at the same time, though, it's not something that was meant to be done, and, you know, humorous as it is, or entertaining as it might be to run through City Escape as Dr. Eggman, it's the kind of thing where the level wasn't designed for that character in mind, so it just comes off as, well, shoddy. But again, like, I mean, that's not to say that these levels are bad, because, I mean, they do have, you know, they have what's there, but it's just more of a serviceable thing, if nothing else. And Sonic Adventure, I wouldn't say has bad level design necessarily, but it's just more so a second thought when it comes to controlling specific characters through certain stages. And, you know, whereas they could design, you know, other specific elements to accommodate for it, like, you know, for example in Casinopolis, with Sonic being forced to play pinball games and then having his level as, you know, what happens if you mess up too much. Yeah, they didn't really do that for the rest of the other characters, well, that much, and it's noticeable, but not something I'd say, oh, worst game ever, 0 out of 10 rubber chickens on, you know?
E-103 Delta, E-104 Epsilon, rescue mission accomplished. E-105 Zeta, E-101 Beta, location unknown. Perhaps aboard the egg carrier.
And off we go. Also, if you're playing a certain other character's story, you can, you know, see this character and follow them. But that is for the future, and actually I think the final story of this, God, I'm blitzing through this. Then again, like, for those of you who don't know what's going on right now, I'm basically just getting a bunch of commentaries for Sonic Adventure done out of the way now. Basically, so I have some disposable content to make up for the 2-week absence I had last time, because, you know, sickness, work, and a lot of life goings on that left me fragile. But again, less said about that, the better. And as for Gamma, we now return to the egg carrier for, I'd say, probably the final part of the game, really. Wow, that's... God, this is really going fast. Then again, I am marathoning these parts as well. But, man, sorry, I'm just a little bit blown away right now. There are actually 2 different ways you can get to the egg carrier, one of which is from the Mystic Ruins, as you've probably seen before. There is also another way down here, which is a little speedboat, which, well, actually no, I guess it makes sense for Gamma to know where the egg carrier is, but for everybody else, it's a nice little tourist destination. Oh, by the way, one little fun fact, if you're willing to talk to the civilians of Station Square, they will actually react to Gamma's presence being a robot. Like, you'll have some people going like, what the hell are you doing here? And then some people going like, oh, it's one of Dr. Eggman's robots, run away. I don't know, it's a cute little bit of interaction that just, makes me smile. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think that's what Sonic Adventure really succeeded at. It's those little moments, you know, inspired by Yu Suzuki's living world philosophy that really made Sonic Adventure feel as fleshed out as it did. And seldom few Sonic games would ever really achieve that sense of wholesomeness, and I guess even a sense of impact, since a lot of Sonic games don't typically focus on the world anymore.
E-Series data. Beginning search. Accessing data. Hot Shelter. E-Series location confirmed. Unlocking Hot Shelter sector now.
So now we're on the hunt for our last two E-Series robots, Zeta and a certain other one. Well, we are playing as the other one, because there are only two left, as far as we know. Come on, Gamma, you can make it! So we're talking about in terms of design, like, I mean, Gamma was initially meant to resemble the Egg Robos from Sonic & Knuckles. I really like the difference in design that they gave to him in Sonic Adventure, though. Like, I mean, it's still very recognizably Eggman, but at the same time, though, it also has a very harder-edged machine look to it, which, again, I guess I could probably talk about as well for the modern incarnations of these games. Yeah, outside of giving the characters more modernized designs, I think a lot of the stuff that shifted along with it, like, you know, Dr. Eggman's robots and the general aesthetic being a lot more harder-edged, I think honestly suited him a little bit better, if I'm honest, because, like, I mean, while it's something I honestly kind of prefer than the whole Animals things, you know, with Badniks and everything. Like, I mean, I can completely understand why people like them, but at the same time, I'm a much bigger fan of the Egg Pawns and some of the designs that came with Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2, because Badniks are still around-ish, you know, in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, but they're very downplayed compared to, you know, the Egg Pawns that would come later, which do take my preference, admittedly. But again, you know, just very designs and enemies and all that kind of stuff. And I guess nostalgia probably also played a huge part of it, because Badniks didn't come back until, you know, discounting Sonic 4 Sonic Colors, so it's more of a nostalgia thing, but it's something that I don't think really makes sense, because, you know, you would have thought that Eggman would not wanted to go backwards in terms of designs, but whatever. I mean, especially since his robots didn't run on animal power anymore. So that's a bit of a contradictory thing, since they seem to run on Chaos Drives, I think. Well, in Adventure 2 they still ran on animals, but I think from Sonic Heroes onwards it was the Chaos Drives that came in with Adventure 2. But then again, that's stuff I'll talk about whenever I get around to Sonic Adventure 2 or Heroes, but I probably won't get around to Sonic Heroes because, you'll find out. Anyway, this is Gamma's final stage, the Hot Shelter. Not quite as explorative as Amy's, but at the same time, though, still decent to go through. Also one of the longest levels, and the one that does frustrate me a lot because just a lot of stuff, and this is also the level that first time playing I tended to get the whole time over thing a lot. And again, I do not understand that stipulation for the life of me. I know I mentioned this before, but it goes without saying that Gamma didn't need a time limit. Like, I mean, none of his stages have, you know, the utmost sense of urgency. There is no logical reason, like, now Gamma, if you do not complete this mission, I will destroy you. It's like there's no fear of failure or anything, it's just arbitrary. And again, you know, but that being said though, compared to what I said about Red Mountain and Windy Valley, this stage, however, does feel like that it was designed with Gamma in mind, and to be perfectly honest, had it not been for the time limit, a lot of this stuff really works, because you do have a lot of Gamma-specific set pieces, such as one coming up right now, actually, with the trains. Oh, for goodness sake. And, well, I guess also the cranes as well, you know, because you have to shoot them, you know, go down over there. Again, this is stuff that was designed with Gamma in mind. However, at the same time, though, there's still, I guess the Hot Shelter in general is also a level that does decently design itself well for Amy. Well, it alters it slightly, and there are some areas to explore off-screen that I didn't show off here, but in a general sense, though, the Hot Shelter is probably the level was probably best designed for the more, I guess, for the slower-paced characters, which, again, does make sense since, you know, Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles don't ever go here. I don't know, I'm just wondering if, you know... Yeah, nothing. Yeah, nothing. I was just questioning the level design, but again, it is what it is. And I don't necessarily find it as egregious or bad as I'm sure some, you know, critics of Sonic Adventure might think it is. But it is still something. Also, you can slightly cheese your way if you know what you're doing, like just hopping across the tracks. You won't fall off and die, but you will just hop along, generally. It is a pretty decent set piece that I think they actually would reuse for Sonic Heroes a little bit later. In fact, I actually think they have a very similar design. Like, even though the ones in Sonic Heroes were more red, a similar design, which is, I guess, a nice bit of continuity, because the Sonic series used to have that, but it doesn't anymore, because apparently continuity is scary for Sonic fans nowadays. Whee! That was actually a pretty cool explosion-y thing. I think this is also the easiest Gamma level to farm in lives, which I don't think you'd probably need too much, because again, I think Sonic Adventure does a decent job in being decently challenging, while at the same time also, you know, not impossibly hard. Which, again, I guess Sonic games, for the most part, probably are generally easygoing, but, you know, for those people who just like, oh, the only real form of fun is pain, so make the challenge just balls to the walls difficult. And of course, the overstated trivia of the day, oh my god, he has Dreamcast in his, abdomen. My god, it's a Japanese version as well. Yeah, one of the more interesting E-Series boss fights in the sense that you're not just blasting away. Well, you generally are, but you have to target the sides of the thing, and the missiles sort of act as countermeasures, but not really. Yeah, it's interesting, but not a lot is really done with this boss fight. It's more disposable like the other E-Series robots, which is probably a decent bit of commentary on the nature of Gamma's existence. But then again, that's probably looking too deep into things. But then again, that's what Gamma's story was fantastic for, and something that I'll cover a little bit later. But for now, it is time for more cutscenes. Is it? I'm not too sure. No, I don't think it is, so I probably could waffle on for a little bit more. Oh no, because you're supposed to take the thing off to the thing, and then the I don't know. I'm just wasting time. Come on. But again, like, as I said before, I showed this off with the pool area and Amy's story, but again, you do get the impression that this is a place that Dr. Eggman would live in, and that's... I love seeing that side of the series, and I would really love to see it return. But no, apparently we're not allowed to have stories in Sonic anymore.
E-105 Zeta rescue complete. Units remaining. Gamma. Beta.
And now we come up to the final crescendo of Gamma's story, E-101 Mark II, codenamed Beta Romeo. Actually, I don't know what the hell his codename is. This is probably one of the most challenging boss fights in the entire game. But that's mostly because E-101 Mark II is faster and generally has a lot more attacks, which your reticle can get sidetracked on. Again, if you fire at him normally, he'll just deflect your bullets, and you have to get him at a certain nexus point, you know, where he's charging at you, but then you have to shoot him in the back, while at the same time also firing away at missiles. And it's not something I'm especially skilled at. Like, I mean, it's not impossible to do, but it is something where you kind of need to focus and have a bit of luck on your side at the same time. And again, it's not especially difficult, but again, it is something that is somewhat padded out by the fact that Beta would like to just hover up in the sky and then just blast away multiple things like this. I don't know, it's something that takes a long while and is reminiscent of the boss philosophy that I wasn't really too big of a fan of, as I mentioned previously. But at the same time though, it does offer a pretty big spectacle, so it's not something I really complain about that much. Yeah, again, this is generally where a lot of the problems lie. Again, he's a lot faster and... it just takes a long time. Especially in the final phase as well, because again, he has to do the whole pattern again, including shooting the lasers, and it's just a bit tiresome, to be honest. That being said, though, you do get E101's theme song here, which is a bit of a remix of, I think, Gamma's theme, now that I think about it, but it's, yeah, pretty decent mix for his final boss fight. And fire away. You only really have one window of opportunity to hit him here, though, and it's something difficult to time, and if you stand too close to him, you are at the risk of getting hit, but again, if you're quick enough, you can take him down quite easily. Now, die. Here, split. No, it doesn't fall over. It's probably thinking of, E100 Alpha then. And thus, we end Gamma's story. Yippee-ki-yay, yeehaw, and fuck yeah. I have nothing more to say. So, let's just watch the cutscene and I'll talk about it at the end. And so, the bird you saw at the end of Amy's story was in fact E102 Gamma. And god damn, is this such a beautifully written ending. I actually do have something to say about that beforehand, but again, in the original drafts of Sonic Adventure, Gamma was initially meant to commit suicide. There would have been no boss fight against E101 Mark II, and, well, Gamma just would have committed suicide, the bird itself would have been released. And again, I might be called a gothy, morose motherfucker for saying this, but I really wish that ending would have been kept in. I mean, yeah, obviously, I know why it was cut out, you know, suicide, parents would probably be up in arms, you know, kids would be traumatized. But to be perfectly honest though, I think that would have spoken greater volumes about Gamma's character, in the sense that, you know, what was inside him was finally getting released, and the artificial intelligence of Gamma would finally relent his existence to, well, what was within. I don't know, it just fucking speaks to me, man. Anyway, now we reach the end of Gamma's story, which, god, this, I think there's I think even for people, oh, let me just focus, mate. I think while a lot of people might criticize Sonic Adventure's story, or hell, even the story in Sonic games in general for being, you know, bad, oh, look at all the plot holes, oh, it's so bad, a lot of people tend to have a lot of underwritten respect for, you know, Gamma's story, and again, I think it's mostly because of the fact that it's told in a very abstract sort of way, which again speaks to Akinori Nishiyama's writing talents. It's done in a way in which it speaks more so through, you know, the scene, the way in which it's staged, the music, and generally the emotions that are wrought from Gamma trying to interpret his situation. Like, I mean, most especially with that scene where he was seeing E101 being torn apart for spare parts and, you know, essentially being reconstructed. Again, those are some of my favourite scenes because it's so very interpretive, and not in the same sense of, oh, well, Gamma could have been thinking this, or is it the bird, or is it the artificial intelligence itself? It's just a story that does invite a lot of introspection, and, you know, for being given the privilege of seeing, you know, one of Eggman's robots just go through its daily life and begin to question what its role is within its armada, it's fantastic. And it's the kind of story that we would never see in a Sonic game again. But it honestly, though, it did so much to establish everything, you know, not only how Dr. Eggman is to his forces, you know, when they succeed and fail him, not only to how things are as, you know, what you have to do to be aboard one of Eggman's ships. It's wonderfully written, and, you know, even though I would have preferred the suicide ending, as dark as it might have been, I am very satisfied with what we got with Gamma's story. We got to see a slice of life with Dr. Eggman, and we got to see, you know, a robot go through its life and begin to question what it is that it does, and change over the course of the people it meets, and, you know, how its experiences between, you know, cold, hard, emotional, you know, way of thinking versus, you know, the extremely logical, carefully constructed way of thinking would, you know, affect him on an emotional level. And I didn't even talk about the music itself. I mean, Gamma's theme is just beautifully composed. Starts off electronic, but then slowly begins to grow more and more wild, and, you know, done as an intentional nod to the bird inside him. And it's fantastic. I have no other words for this. At the same time, though, I don't know. Gamma, I think, is well remembered within the Sonic community for being, I guess, he's remembered for his character arc. Again, he was able to tell a complete story, and I guess the reason why his character hasn't been soured over the years is because he was just a one-game character, he served his purpose, and because of that, a lot of people remember him. Which is probably more than can be said for the likes of, you know, Shadow or anything like that, but yeah. Again, I don't want to talk about the rest of the series because that makes me sad. So I suppose, if nothing else, I will have a bit of a fun fact for you. 2 lyrics in this song, again, all 2 lyrics that are hidden under electronic distortion. They say this: "It is my pleasure, ready to die." You know, hinting towards that suicide ending, eh? But in that case, to leave you on that disturbing note, I'm Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on the Sonic Adventure commentary, we will be tackling the final storyline, Knuckles' story. Catch you later, and I'll see you next time.